Well, we're joined now by Taoiseach Micheál Martin. Thank you for coming in to speak to us on 6-1 this evening. It's been a very interesting day. You said earlier the next 48 hours will tell us a lot. You'd like to see calm heads, negotiation. Do you think President Trump is open to negotiation? I
believe ultimately, yes. I believe that the US will enter into negotiations, and that's our hope, despite what is getting said. I think Europe has designed countermeasures and will design countermeasures, but the preference in Europe is negotiations. Tariffs are bad. The European Union hasn't looked for this. The decision of the US, in my view, is the wrong decision. It will negatively impact the world economy. The most damaging impact right now, I think, is the damage to sentiment, to economic investment, because I think investment decisions are being paused right now, and that's good for nobody. And so the sensible approach would be negotiations, which would at least allow for some form of settlement that people could adapt to and manage.
Some are saying that there should be a tough response because that's what President Trump respects.
There will be a response, but it has to be one that's calibrated to be of maximum advantage to European citizens. It can't be one which kind of invites more damage on European citizens. And that's something that I know the Commission has looked at very carefully. They've taken inputs from all the member states. There will be continuing consultation. I mean, to be fair, if you were a car-producing manufacturing country in Europe now, you've been hit with a huge tariff, which will really damage access to the European or to the US market for German car manufacturers, for example, Slovakian car manufacturers. So there has to be solidarity across member states. There has to be an acknowledgement of the challenges over and above the challenge that all of us are facing, because the 20% will hit 70% of goods exported from the EU. So it will damage our agri-food industry and general trade unless there's a reduction in those tariffs.
And of course, if the EU imposes tariffs, then it's going to hurt consumers here, which nobody wants to see happen. So what we're hearing now is that another option is to target US services. So things like banking, big tech. That wouldn't be great for Ireland, though, would it? And it seems that it's something that France is in favour of.
Yeah, some countries have articulated that. We're against that, certainly initially. It is our view, there's no point in making things worse. The big tech sector and technology is a big employer across Europe and is an important sector. You're looking then at a really fully fledged trade war, which will have even more damaging repercussions. I mean, there are options right now in terms of an initial response. And as I said, there has been a lot of work done within the Commission, which has exclusive competency in trade matters. And I think President von der Leyen, in her statement overnight, I think signalled, first of all, the damage that this will do to the world economy, but also then a readiness on the part of the European Union to negotiate. And
would Ireland have a veto if tech services were to be targeted?
Well, I think the vetoes rarely get deployed, but in terms of taxation, we certainly would have as strong a voice as anybody in terms of resisting that. I don't believe the push on services right now is as widespread across the EU. Some of the bigger member states may be pursuing that as a sort of a nuclear option on day one to respond to the tariffs. But in our view, we should give negotiations an opportunity. And again, it depends on other countermeasures, particularly on the tariff side, that Europe have prepared. And there will be a response from Europe. I mean, that is clear.
Pharma wasn't included, but is it a temporary reprieve, do you think?
We don't know that. I think what's happening there is it's much more complex than might have been originally thought on the US side. There are a lot of complex supply chain issues. Also, the cost of medicines would go up immediately for American citizens. In terms of, if you take the Irish, Belgian and, say, Danish companies or US companies located in those countries, very often it's an intermediate product, so they need our product to finish off the medicine and complete it in the US. And then the skill sets involved, these are factories that have FDA compliance, there's huge physical investment, billions embedded in those factories. You can't relocate them overnight. And so US could end up doing more damage to its own companies. And I don't think that's what they want. I would hope that we can continue to engage in terms of outlining the issues. And then if there may be outstanding issues from the American side that we would acknowledge, then maybe we can resolve them by negotiation. But there's no point in doing something without really understanding the unintended consequences that can flow from decisions like this.
OK, now just very briefly before we go separately, the world of sport lost a giant today, Mick O'Dwyer. I know you wanted to pay tribute to him and you did earlier today.
Yeah, it's with great sadness that we've learned of the passing of Mick O'Dwyer. I think he was an iconic figure. Particularly during the 1970s, when he really, himself and Heffo, the late Kevin Heffernan, ushered in a new era in GA management and in GA football in particular. All of us of that age group will always remember those iconic matches between Dublin and Kerry. And of course, from a Cork perspective, all of us remember Mick O'Dwyer saying before every Munster Championship final that Cork were the second best team in the country.
There's some things that people will
he had that great
forget.
capacity to butter us up in advance of giving us a bit of no, we won a good few back, of course. But he was a wonderful figure in the GA, a great modern coach, great footballer. I can recall as a young child being brought to Croke Park to see him play in the late 60s. So his passing will be mourned by anybody with an interest in sport, and particularly in Gaelic football.
OK, Taoiseach Micheál Martin, thank you for that.
Thank you very much.